Welcome to your final notes of Unit 3. So today we're going to be talking about the Pythagorean theorem, which you did a little bit in algebra, but now we're going to take and we're going to apply it to geometry. So let's take a look at what that's going to look like. So here's the first of all thing we need to talk about is the triangle inequality theorem. The sum of the lengths of any two sides of the triangle must be greater than the length of the third side. What does that mean? Okay, well let's figure out what that means. So that means that PQ, so the line segment PQ, plus the line segment QR, whatever their measure is, needs to be greater than the line segment PR. Likewise, QR, oops, not QO, QR, that line segment plus PR needs to be greater than the line segment PQ. Also, the line segment PR plus the line segment PQ needs to be greater than the line segment QR. So that no matter what two sides you put together, the two of them added together needed to be greater than the third side. If that isn't true, then you do not have a triangle. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So for number one, let's see if this is a triangle. So what we're going to do is add the lengths of the two sides. So let's start. Let's do 8 plus 15. That needs to be greater than 17. While 8 plus 15 is 23. 23 is greater than 17. Check. Yes, that works. Now let's do 8 and 17. So 8 plus 17 needs to be greater than 15. And you do need to write this work out. You need to show me that you've checked all of these things. So even if you do it in your head, you need to have the work written out. Is 25 greater than 15? Check. Yes, that works. So next, 15 plus 17 is greater than 8. Is 32 greater than 8? Yes. So even though you could obviously see that it was going to be greater, you do need to write out all of that math, okay? So for this one, yes, this is a triangle. Okay, so next, let's take a look at this one. So let's do 6 plus 8. Is that going to be greater than 14? Well, 6 plus 8 is 14. Is 14 strictly greater than 14? No, they're equal. So no, this can't be a triangle. So even if it's equal, it can't be a triangle. So let's take a look at this one with decimals. Scary, I know, but we can still do it, okay? So we're going to do 6.8 plus 7.2 has to be greater than 5.1. Is 14 greater than 5.1? Yeah, it is. So if you need to use a calculator to add these together, that's fine. Okay, so next we want to do 6.8 plus 5.1. Again, checking all of our options. Is that greater than 7.2? 6.8 plus 5.1 is 11.9, and that needs to be greater than 7.2. Next is 7.2 plus 5.1 greater than 6.8. So we need to see, is 12.3 greater than 6.8? So again, all I did was add those two sides together, and yeah, it is. So this one right here also works. So then because all of those statements are true, then yes, this can form a triangle. All right, let's take a look at this one. Find the range for the measure given those two sides. So we actually have to do the same kind of thing, but this time we have an x. So we're going to take 5 plus 11, and we know that needs to be greater than x, okay, because we want it to be a triangle. Well, 5 plus 11 is 16. So we know that x needs to be greater than 16. That's one thing that we know. We also know that x plus 5 needs to be greater than 11. So now we're going to solve that for x. So we're going to subtract 5 from both sides, and we get that x is greater than 6. So x is less than 16, x is greater than 6. Let's go ahead and try out that third side. X plus 11 needs to be greater than 5. So we need to subtract 11 from both sides, and x is greater than negative 6. Well, we never have negative distance when we're talking about a triangle, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of that one. So now I need to write out a statement for those values of x. Well, I know that x needs to be less than 16, So I'm going to put x in the middle for my final answer. X needs to be less than 16, but it also needs to be greater than 6. So I got that from here and from here. So let's take a look at number 5 now. So again, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to add all of these together. So 3.8 plus 9.2 has to be greater than x. So 3.8 plus 9.2 is 13. So then I just like to write it with the x facing this way because it's easier for me to see. So x has to be less than 13. If x is greater than 13, then that sum won't be greater when you add those two together. Then x plus 3.8 needs to be greater than 9.2. So now to solve for x, I'm going to subtract 3.8 from both sides. And then I get that x has to be greater than 5.4. Okay, so there's another statement that I know to be true. Last but not least, x plus 9.2 needs to be greater than 3.8. Subtract 9.2 from both sides. And when I do that, I get that x is greater than negative 5.4. Well, again, we don't want negative, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to, sorry about that. We're going to go ahead and get rid of that. So negative 5.4. Okay, for that one. So we're going to get rid of that one. So here are the two equations that we want to use to set up. So we know that x has to be less than 13. So my bigger number goes on the far right, but we also know that it has to be greater than 5.4. So that right there is your final answer for number 5. Let's take a look at number 6. So for number 6, we want to determine the possible values of x. So let's go ahead and do that. So we are going to just set up our sides. So we know that x minus 7 plus 2x plus 12. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and distribute this down here. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. So now I already have that distributed for myself, so I don't have to worry about it later. So it has to be greater than 4x minus 12. Okay, so now we need to combine our like terms. X plus 2x is 3x. Negative 7 plus 12 is 5. And that needs to be greater than 4x minus 12. So now we need to get our x's on the same side. Well, I see that this is a positive 3x. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. And then I have 5 is greater than x minus 12. So then I'm going to add 12 to both sides. And I get that x is less than 17. So I'm going to write that this way. X is less than 17. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at our next one. So we're going to add 2 more sides. So now I'm going to take x minus 7, and now I'm going to take this side plus 4x minus 12 has to be greater than 2x plus 12. So x plus 4x is going to give me 5x. Negative 7 minus 12 gives me negative 19, and that needs to be greater than 2x plus 12. Okay, so now I need to go ahead and I'm going to get this 2x over to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides since it's positive. So I get 3x minus 19 is greater than 12. And then I'm going to add 19 to both sides. So then I get that 3x is greater than 31. So then divide both sides by 3. And I get that x is greater than 10.3. Now in our experience in the past, the third side always end up as negative. So I'm just going to skip that step. I know that this is my left bound. And then I know that this up here is my right bound. So let's go ahead and write out that statement. So we know that x needs to be greater than 10.3. But we also know that it has to be less than 17. So this right here is your congruent statement for all of that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Pythagorean theorem. So for the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared needs to equal c squared. So a and b are always associated with the right angle. They always surround the right angle, and c always sits across from the right angle. Remember, C is called the hypotenuse. Okay, so let's take a look at number 7. So for number 7, we want to calculate this out using the Pythagorean theorem. So a squared plus b squared needs to equal c squared. Well, 6 squared is 36, 15 squared is 225, and that needs to be equal to x squared. Well, 36 plus 225 is going to give us 261 is equal to x squared. Now, to undo an x squared, we need to take the square root of both sides. So now I'm just going to go into my calculator because I brought one to math class because I'm so prepared. And the square root of 261 is going to give us 16.2 for our final answer for number 7. You can write it as a decimal for this, okay? Well, let's take a look at number 8. So I noticed that 17 and 7 represent our legs. So 17 squared plus 7 squared needs to equal x squared. Well, 17 squared is 289, 7 squared is 49, and that needs to be equal to x squared. Well, 289 plus 49 is 338, and that's equal to x squared. So to undo a square, we take the square root, and we get that x is equal to 18.38 for our final answer for number 8. Now let's take a look at number 11. So for number 11, we know the hypotenuse, or we don't know one of the legs. So here. So 9 squared plus x squared needs to be equal to 11 squared. So now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and solve this for x. So I have 81 plus x squared is equal to 121. So now I want to get that x by itself. So before I take the square root, I'm going to subtract 81 from both sides. So then I get x squared is equal to 40. Take the square root of both sides, and I get that x is equal to 6.32 as our final answer for that one. Let's take a look at number 10. So Damien's trying to crawl into the window. Okay, so we notice that it's 5 feet away and 12 feet up. Well, here's a right angle, so this actually forms a triangle. So I can use the Pythagorean theorem. 5 squared plus 12 squared is equal to c squared. So to get the length of the ladder, all you have to do is figure out the hypotenuse. I want you guys to go ahead and solve this one on your own. So I'm going to do one of these, and if you feel like you get it, you can go ahead and come up and get your worksheet. So first we want to prove that it's a triangle. So to prove that it's a triangle, we're going to check the sides. So 7 plus 14 needs to be greater than 16. Is 21 greater than 16? Yeah, that works. 7 plus 16 needs to be greater than 14. Is 23 greater than 14? Yeah, that works. 14 plus 16 needs to be greater than 7. Is 30 greater than 7? Yeah, so that works. So the first thing I did was to check to see that it was a triangle, which it is. So now I need to check to see if it is a right triangle. So to check to see if it's a right triangle, I'm going to take the two shorter sides. The two shorter sides, which is 7 squared and 14 squared, and set that equal to the longer side squared. So 7 squared is 49, 14 squared is 196, and 16 squared is 256. So I need to see if 14 plus 196 is equal to 256. So here I get 245 is equal to 256. Well, that's not true. Okay, so yes, it's a triangle. Yes, it's a triangle, but it's not right. Okay, so that's what you're going to be doing on your homework for the most part today. So if you understand that, come and go ahead and get your homework. If you don't, let's do one of the last two problems together so you understand that. So that concludes your note video today. Thanks for listening.